Right, first ever live stream. I don't really know what I'm doing. Not entirely sure if anyone's going to come and see what I'm up to, but I thought I would give it a go anyway and stick it on the channel and see what happens. So what I'm doing tonight is I'm going to take the motor off of the speedrun challenge car and maybe sort the shocks out because they're a little bit bouncy. So if you remember, these were the kit shocks in here, front and back, which, if I'm honest, don't do a great deal for the dampening on this. I mean, they're perfectly functionable. If you want a entry-level RC, they will absolutely do the job for you. But if you want something that's a little bit more interesting, you need to get rid of those friction dampers. Just going to move that out of the way, move the transmitters out the way for now, because otherwise they're just going to get in the shot and I am going to keep tripping over them. So I'll get rid of those for a second. Now, first thing I think I'm going to do is take out the motor and put something different in. Question is, what? So I was thinking of taking that out and sticking in maybe a torque tuned or sport tuned for the next run and see how much quicker that is. We have 15 miles an hour out of it in the opening run, which from a speedrun point of view is next to nothing really, given what some of the others are doing. So I think I will amp it up a little bit. So let's see what we've got in the speedrun motor drawer. Don't have a sport tuned in there. What do I have? Or do I? He says. Do I have? I know I've got a sport tune knocking around somewhere. Got loads of torque tuned now. That's what came out of this kit originally, was a torque tuned. I do have a couple of boxed sport tunes, I'm sure somewhere in here I had a spare sport tune knocking around, but maybe I was mistaken. Those are silver cans. I've probably got 8 or 9 silver cans in there now. No. Torque tuned, sport tuned. Got a BZ motor I could chuck in. That might be a bit too much for it to jump up to. Maybe we go with the torque. No, sport. So I have a couple of these knocking around. So let's see what. Let's just put up what motor options we've got. We've got Tamiya Sport tuned. We've got a Tamiya torque tuned. Boxes falling everywhere in here in the studio. I do have Tamiya stock BZ motor knocking around. Then we've got an Eco Thrust 21 turn that was used in last year's speed run. I've got a Core 15 turn motor there. I've got this one, which it says is a stock motor with an adjustable end. And if I'm not lying, it's a bit of soldering, doesn't it? Look at that. Look how loose that wire is. It's interesting. So I do have that, but that's not been run or used. But that is a stock. I think that's just a jazzy silver can, really, from back in the old days. I have this one, which Jess sent me, which some days works and some days doesn't. And I don't know what to do with that, whether to give up on it altogether or persevere. Then we've got this sport tuned motor, which is that a modified E-Tronics one, which I think that is very similar to that one. I think. Can't really remember, if I'm honest. And then I've got a 14 turn double, and I've got a 10 turn double. And those two are at the higher end of the scale. So the 14 first and then the 10, I would imagine, at the end. So that's what we've got. Those are the motor options that I have for this season's speed run. And I haven't got time to do them in order. So I think we'll skip the torque tune, because that gives about an extra mile per hour, I think. And we'll jump to the sport, which I think is going to give a couple. That might give me, I might get to 17. Then I think we'll go Eco Thrust 21, which I think will be a similar speed to the sport tune. I don't think there'll be much more in that. That one will give me an extra mile an hour or two. I think that one will give me an extra mile an hour or two. So now we're probably up to sort of 22, maybe mile an hour, I reckon. So 17, 19, 20, 22. That'll still run 22, even though it's a 15-turn motor. Then that will punch us 27. And I reckon that'll get us over 30 mile an hour. And at that point, I think we're probably going to be approaching where I'm at. This one, I don't think I'm going to run at all, because I think it's just going to be junk. Although, it does say Firestorm spec. Maybe I should give that a run. What do you think? You think that's going to be better than the other motors? If I solder that on properly so it's not just flapping about in the breeze? You know, if I'm honest, I've not even run that through a battery pack to see if it spins up. So, I don't know, maybe. Can't decide. Stick it back in the drawer for now. So, that means we're canning the torque tuned. Get rid of that. That's not going to speed run this year. Back into the pit of shame that is my drawer of many upgrades for the Ultra Racer that I haven't got to yet. We're going to run the Sport. I think we'll then run the Thrust Eco. And possibly that. Then I think we go Super Stock, 15 turn, then these two bad boys at the end. That's the plan anyway. What do you reckon? So let's get that sport tuned motor in and pop the rest of these back in the drawer for now. And then we'll have another look at those shocks now we're down in the studio that I didn't get on before. I've not placed any orders for any of the other bits and bobs that I wanted for this. So literally, do you know what? I might even leave the shocks on and just run it with pogos and just be done with it for the speed run. Because, you know, I probably need to take a bit of height out of it anyway and get it a bit lower to the ground. If I'm serious about sort of doing some speeds on this speed run, I'm going to need to get it a lot lower to the ground, because it's currently set up for the rally spec. It's a higher chassis position. And I bought all those other hop-ups, but I got them all wrong, really. I didn't buy enough of anything that I needed to put onto it. So I had the... those are the shocks there that I had. The aluminium dampers. I'm going to put those on anyway, so maybe... But I don't want to... If I flip it, I don't want to break one. I'll be gutted. Because I want to rally this next year. We've got the MO3 drive shafts. They'll probably go in the front where the steering is for the rally. But again, I don't necessarily need those right now. I bought the reinforced arms, but only bought one set, so I'm a plonker, so they're no good. Yeah, and that was it, really. So, it's a little bit disappointing. But that's sometimes what happens, isn't it? When you buy loads of Tamiya hop-ups, sometimes it goes like that. You end up buying loads of stuff, and then find out you don't really need them all. They're not all going to work in what it is you want to put them into. And it's just the way the cookie crumbles, isn't it? And then I've got an ESC to chuck in here when I finish the speed runs. Though I am concerned, because I've mounted that Storm one right into the middle section there. I'm not sure how easy that's going to come out of there. Because that one does go pretty tight, actually. Then, of course, when we're finished, I'm going to swap the body out for the Beetle one. Paint that up in the cherry red, which will be real nice. And then that's going to be the rally runner for next year. So with that decision made, I am not putting the M chassis dampers on it, because I think I'm just going to end up breaking it. And if I end up breaking with those, because they're not cheap, I think I'll be a little bit upset, actually. I don't mind if I break the chassis. The chassis is kind of replaceable because there's plenty of these around at reasonable prices. But if I break the shocks or I break any of those hop-up parts, I'll be a little bit gutted, really, because I've got other M chassis that I want to do stuff with. So I've got this little beauty, this little M chassis here. That's now the short MO5, and other than my butchered mini body shell, but it's going to rally, so I don't really care how bad it gets. I'll tell you what, that thing is super nippy. And I'd done a little slalom test with that. I thought it was really fast. But it turns out I missed a slalom off it, so it wasn't as fast as Mark's in the end. But it is groovy. It's a nice little mini. I like the way it handles. What's the other M chassis I've got? I've got another M chassis somewhere. Oh, that's right. It's down the bottom of the stack. I've got an XM01 Pro as well to have a bash at. I still really am interested in the MB01, where you can change the drive shaft to the front and the back and put the motor in different positions. I still quite fancy having a bash of that. But anyway, let's get this motor in, shall we? And then we've got a faster speed run entry for next time out. Goodness knows when that's going to be, though, because well, as I speak to you now, we're halfway through the Orchard Raceway series in terms of the content for all of you on YouTube land. However, I am a lot further through the content when it comes to actual real-time content, because yeah, I've done a lot more since then, a lot more driving. So I've done what have I done? I've done the two-wheel drive vintage, we've done the two-wheel drive modern, we have done the hopper class, which I'm still not sure whether I should have really entered that in or not. We have got the modern four-wheel drive and the vintage four-wheel drive to go, which has got some super cars in, and then they'll all run, whoever wins overall will run off against the Durga, which I can't stop looking at with that paintwork. Look at the way that goes in the light. That is lovely bubbly, isn't it? And that is a really nice chassis. I was out driving that over the weekend, and it really does go. So what else did over the weekend? I had my brother-in-law come over, and he bought his TT02B over, and we had a little play on the Orchard Raceway, and I pitched the TT02, his TT02, against the Thunder Dragon, and that Thunder Dragon chassis is really good, really easy to drive, and I think a lot of people forget how good that chassis was back in the day. Right, now I'm trying to remember how to take this motor out. I've started happily unscrewing this screw here, which covers up that little end bit, the gear mesh. It's probably, yeah, that looks pretty good, doesn't it? I'll just pop that wheel off as well, makes it a little bit easier. So far we've been live streaming for 15 minutes and had not a single thumbs up and not a single person pop on to say hello. So the last 15 minutes of talking, completely in vain, but this tends to be how I actually film my videos anyway, is I just put the camera on and then I just start tinkering about, and then yeah, often, and like a lot of YouTubers, I'll edit it all up at the end, and yeah, sometimes I put multiple cameras up, so I've got plenty of time to edit the different various shots and stuff like that. But I haven't bothered with that today. Just banged it on live stream. Never done a live stream before. First one we've ever done on the OAG. So far, no good. But who knows? Maybe there's a future in live streaming RC tinkering. But it won't be on my channel, that's for certain. Be on one of the big channels. Mark Brian RC, Poor Boys RC, all of which content that I thoroughly enjoy when I'm not tinkering RCs myself. Right then, let's get this pinion. Aha! Now, it was a groovy little pinion doodab that went with this set that helped you measure the distance the pinion's got to go on. So let me see if I've still got that. What are the chances of that? What are the chances of me still having a little doodad in here that does that? Slim to none, that's what. Because we just chuck everything at the end of the stuff. We just chuck it. Rock and roll, brother. I found it. That's what we want. That's what we want. All the parts back in the bag. Noisy segment. Me bashing around boxes. There we go. Found it. So now I've just got to remember how to use it. He says, pop it on there, and then usually you just slide way up. That was not successful, was it? Knocked it all over the shop. Right, I'm going to nip it up so it's just like so. Little nip, nip, nip. Pop that on the top, and then just slide it up till it reaches the top. Hand tighten, and then once I've hand tightened it, I tend to grab one of these doodads and just make sure we're a little bit tighter. There we go. Nice. Sport tuned motor ready to go back in. So this is the harder part. So I've got to get the mesh right. So I've just noticed I took all that gubbins off and didn't remove this little bit. We haven't done the ludicrous speed mod yet, which everyone's talking about over on the Poor Boys channel. Thanks to Bryce and his fantastic ideas. Quite a few people rocking ludicrous mods. I am just happy with going a sensible speed because I'm not sure. I'm just not sure I'm going to be able to handle any faster. Plus, we might let Mini OAG drive it again, in which case, every little incremental step up in speed that we do has got to be manageable. Otherwise, ladies and gentlemen, anything may happen when Mini OAG gets mitts on it. Right, so I'm now trying to mash this up, which is a lot harder than it looks, especially to do it on camera. I don't remember it being this tricky when I put the first motor in. Maybe I over tightened that bit there. Let's loosen that. Slide that up there. So I do have the gears meshed, which is great. We are not locating the other side, which was interesting. Comment down below, why is the OAG making such a meal out of this? Is it A, because he does not know what he's doing? Is it B? Oh, so that mesh. There we go. There we go. Look at that. Look at that mesh, too tight, eh? Yeah, is it A, he doesn't know what he's doing? B, he knows what he's doing, but it makes great content when he doesn't know that mesh. Look at that mesh in there. Can you see that? Way too tight. Way too tight. That's going to be all sorts of problems. Let's back that off a little bit. I mean, it probably doesn't matter because I'm going to put this one on and I'm going to run it like twice and then I'm going to take it off, aren't I? So does it really matter? Well, yeah, because I'll probably wreck the gears when if it's too tight. Better. Tricky little mesh, this one, I think. Tricky little mesh. Right. On. Cover back on. So far, what I will say is the plastics on this do feel like they're a little bit more robust than the TT02 from last year. I feel like you can probably get away with a bit more tinkering on this than you could do before. Right, wheel back on. There we go. Don't want to lose the doodad for next time. Regular silver can motor. We don't need that again for this particular event. That can go into the silver can drawer of shame. Although we use silver cans in every original build on the OAG, and I've got probably another couple of builds to do. No, I haven't actually. That's not true. There's no more builds to do this winter. There is the Raider modification I'm doing this winter, where I'm putting the deck in on the Raider. I can't remember what that was called now. The hot trick, or the ode to the hot trick, the Californian hot trick for the Raider. Right. Enough about the Raider though, because we're not speed running Raiders. We're speed running this little beauty here. So let's pop those on. Let's whack a pack in. There's a bit of juice left in this one because I was... so, yeah, Saturday night we were racing buggies around the track. And Sunday night we were invited over to some friends for a barbecue. And I got to take the lunchbox over. The pump box lunchbox. And we drove the pumpkin, and my friend's son drove his monster truck. It was his Batman truck, and it was very cool because you could turn it like this. You could sort of just like whip it around on the spot, and it was very cool. And he was loving it. We had a blast. We had a whale of a time driving Batman and the monster truck up and down the garden. And then we started, probably much to his parents' disappointment, to do some jumps where we got a load of firewood and we just built a ramp out of firewood and slammed the cars up and down the firewood. And we had a right old laugh. Lots of giggles, lots of fun, good times had by all, which is what it's all about. Well, at least I think it's what it's all about when it comes to RCs. Right. Moment of truth. Does forward go forward and does backwards go back? Let's find out. No. Forward is backwards and backwards is forward. So, disconnect. Swap says. I never know with these motors. Everyone says it's like a knack, but I never seem to get it right. So no matter how many times, it's like when you open a pack of paracetamol or aspirins, you always open, no matter what end you open, you always open at the end with the instructions folded around the blister pack. Every time. Every single time. It's like the universe knows. Oh, lots of flashy lights that time. Right, let's see if we've got forward, forward and back, back this time. Forward, forward. Back, back. We are in business. Feels faster. I love how a sport-tuned sounds. It does sound different. And it just has that extra bit where you feel it winding up, and then it keeps going and going and going and going. So, we've installed a new motor on our MX-01 MF-01X. Is that the right way? I don't know. I can never really remember. Switch it off. Battery out, because we're done with that. Ready for the next speed run. That was it. That easy. Well, it wasn't that easy, was it? Took me half an hour, but I was waffling as well. So, motor swaps. Again, I'm not on a live stream every motor swap, but I thought I'd have a little go this evening and see what live streaming is all about. And seemingly no one bothered to come and check out the channel, but hey, them's the breaks, aren't they? When you're a content creator on the tube of the U, you find out whether or not people are sat browsing in the evening. I suppose a lot of people this time of night are probably eating their tea or their dinner and not tinkering around with their RC cars like I am. Or if you're over in the US, you're working hard, and if you're in Asia, you're probably asleep in bed. I've just noticed how very, very, very close that drive shaft gets to the body. And I'm thinking that is probably almost too close. I mean, I can get a piece of paper through, but the paper is rubbing on the drive shaft. That is super tight. And it does have a little bit of rubbing on there. I do wonder whether that's just catching slightly. Any dirt or grime that gets in there, though, is just going to get mushed and mashed up in there, isn't it? So that could be a problemo to watch for the future. And I've got to decide what I'm going to put that little fella, because that cannot just be washing around in here loose because of that drive shaft. So I have to get a little bit of sticky and stick that maybe over this side somewhere so I know where it is. Right, that's me. I'm going to sign off. We'll see what happens to this. No, my luck, it'll go nowhere. It'll evaporate into the ether. And the last half an hour of my life, while I achieved getting this MX-05 done, I would not have waffled as much as I did. So that's me. Thank you for watching. See you all soon on the OAG RC. Goodbye for now.